Well, there isn't really a typical day, is the first thing I would say, which is really good because it means there's a lot of variation and different things I'm doing in my job. But let's, for the sake of the conversation, have a typical day. So I think a typical day, of course, starts with having to get myself up and having to get my 17-year-old son out of bed, which is always a first important task. And then very shortly after breakfast, I will be sitting down at my desk. I'm a bit of a morning person, and I like to spend the mornings in my study at home doing quietly the work that I find most demanding but also most interesting, and that would be my writing. So sitting down with a cup of tea to start drafting a paper, or maybe working on a section of a paper which I had drafted already and I need to kind of edit it and work on it, that is likely to be my first couple of hours, when after 2 hours in front of the screen I will get a bit itchy and think like, oh gosh, I need to move. And then very often what I do is I get on my bike and I cycle to campus. So I like to divide my days between home and campus. In a typical day in the office, I might be giving a lecture to a class of undergraduate students. I might be having a seminar with my MA students. I like seminars a bit more than lectures because in the seminars we're a small group and I will be interacting with the students. I will have to provide them with interesting material so that they engage, which is of course also sometimes a challenge, but it's really lovely when they do engage and when they like what I'm talking about and what I've brought to them, and when we get into a good dialogue. So I might be doing this for an hour or two, depending on the class. I will spend quite a lot of time in my office just chatting with colleagues on the corridor or in the office, and it's always really good and really helpful because we talk about all kinds of things that may be going on. I might be wanting to share with them how my lecture went, or I might want to get some advice from a colleague about a specific thing I'm currently reading, and do they know other stuff that would be important for me to read. We might talk about a student we are concerned about, that sort of thing. On a typical day, I also am likely to see some of my students, and it might be one of my undergraduate students who comes in to get advice on their essay. It might be a disappointed student who got some feedback on their essay from me and who wants to know why they haven't done better, and I sit down with them and will try to explain. I also supervise quite a lot of graduate students, so I might be seeing one of my PhD students, which is a really nice thing to do because they work very thoroughly on a topic and I tend to learn a lot from them. So somehow with all these activities and in between emails, not to forget emails in between, I will be sitting at my desks, at my computer and responding to emails. The day will kind of pass sooner or later and often quite quickly with lots of different things to do until I get back on my bike and drive a cycle home.